Hi everyone, welcome to the SaaS Playbook. Today I am very excited. I have Luka, who is from Fox and Spindle. Welcome to the podcast, Luka.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Would you like to give our viewers a brief overview of what Fox and Spindle do?
Yeah, of course. So Fox and Spindle is a small consulting firm. There are two of us, and we focus on digital transformation, particularly in the AI space. So generative AI has exploded over the last few years, and we make sure that we help our clients and our friends and family, everyone who wants to talk to us, implement artificial intelligence, not just well, but also ethically and properly.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a little look then. So I know when we've spoken, Fox and Spindle emphasises digital transformation, but that actually works without buzzwords. So in a world saturated with AI hype, how do you define making it work? And what is the most common misconception you encounter with clients first approach you about AI?
Yeah, the biggest misconception is that our clients and our prospects frequently think that they know what they're doing because they've used ChatGPT or they've heard about Claude. So they're like, oh, we're very advanced. And, to credit some of them, emphasis on some of them, they are. But most of them just know that AI is needed, but they don't know how to do it, which
Yeah,
is where we come in. And we speak human to them. That's one of our catchphrases is we want to be humans in this process. Artificial intelligence is a fantastic new tool, but
yeah,
it's still a tool. It doesn't work on its own. Even agents that can do things still need human interaction, both on the front and the back ends, to work well. And we know they can be overwhelming when you introduce something new, whether it be a new process, new tool, new methodologies. You can't assume that people will know what they mean, how they work, what they're
no.
used for. And we don't want to scare people by sounding smart, but not actually doing anything. So we don't want to throw a PowerPoint deck at them and then leave. We want to make sure that they have fun, that they understand how the technology works, and then it will benefit everyone involved.
Yeah, I'll be honest. So I've just created a website, and where you're saying about people who think that they've used ChatGPT and then can go ahead and use AI. So I created my website with ChatGPT because I saw the videos. You've probably seen it. They've been circulated online. With AI, you can now create a website. I think it said in 60 minutes. No, it took me.
It depends on what you want to create, but you certainly can, and
Yeah,
it's not a bad website either.
but maybe people who understand it a little bit more can. I don't have a technical background. I would say it probably took more like 6 hours than 1 hour for me to create it. But obviously it helps. But I think, yeah, I was a little naive thinking I could do it within an hour. It definitely took
Yeah.
me a lot
Well,
longer than that.
just imagine what it would be like if you had to hire a designer and a programmer to make it. The hiring process alone would probably take you more than 6 hours, so you're still winning.
Oh, I definitely felt like I was winning, and the end product I was really happy with, given that I've never done GitHub or anything like that. So I was really proud of myself once it was done, but it was a painful process, and I argued a lot with ChatGPT.
And that's okay. That means you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Not trusting the first output from AI is the best thing that you can learn. Treating it like a conversation and making it go back and forth and finding iterations, you're doing it right. If you're fighting with it, good job.
Yeah, I think it told me to have a rest at one point.
Wow, that's actually more advanced than I expected.
Yeah, I think it was because the previous night it was really late and I kept saying, we'll have one last attempt of it before I go to bed.
Mhm.
And then it must have learnt that from me. And the following day, when I was arguing with it, it was telling me to take a rest.
And maybe it was tired itself.
I probably was of me. So looking then, I know that you transitioned from management consulting and a fintech background to launching Fox and
Mhm.
Spindle. What was the driving force behind that leap? And what is the biggest difference between implementing AI within a large corporation versus building a nimble AI focused consultancy?
Yeah, so the differences aren't major, other than that in a small consultancy, things happen faster. When there's only two of you, decisions are made in minutes and
Yes.
not in days, weeks, or months because there is no red tape. But from an implementation perspective, the steps ultimately are the same, whether it's kind of like when you're cooking dinner for two or for 10, you still have to gather the ingredients. You still have to know the recipe. You still have to cook it the same way. You're just using a bigger pot.
Yeah.
AI is very much the same way. So even though there's two of us, we still need to know the ins and outs of the tools. We need to follow our own AI governance policy. Just because there's two of us doesn't mean that we can just do whatever we want. We have our own rules, and they're simple, they're not difficult to follow, but we always consult each other when something new is being made. So that's um, the biggest benefit of being small is the ability to make decisions quickly.
Yeah.
As to what was the driving force behind the leap, it's kind of twofold. One was it was the right time, meaning that we had the right knowledge at the right time. If anyone tells you they're an expert in generative AI specifically, and that they have more than 2 years of experience, they're full of it
Yeah, I
because
agree.
it has only been around since late 2022, early 2023. We were just lucky to jump on the bandwagon quickly. And the other thing is that I had the pleasure of doing it with my best friend,
Yeah.
Jenny Nelson, who is my business partner. We go all the way back to high school, and there's no one in the world I can imagine doing this with other than her. At this point, I don't have any siblings, but if I did, she'd be my twin because we no longer even use words to speak. The other day, we communicated like this, and somehow she understood what I was trying to convey to her. So, for those of you who are thinking of starting businesses,
Yeah.
meeting minds is a great place to start.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, like you say, I had a business with my best friend many years ago, and I think it stands the test of time, doesn't it? Because you can have frank conversations and you wouldn't be offended. And when things are good, it's great. You're there to support each other, but
Yep.
also in the tough times, you can have those tough conversations and still be friends at the end of it.
Exactly. And we just returned from a conference in Florida. We live in Atlanta, by the way,
Yeah.
and it's a 6.5 hour drive from Orlando to Atlanta. And normally I would think, well, I'm just going to fly. There's no way I'm going to
Yeah.
drive. But when it's someone you enjoy, then sure, 6 hours turns into presentation prep and singing Buffy the Vampire Slayer musical along the way.
I love that. That's brilliant. That's so much fun. Oh, you wouldn't be able to probably do that on an aeroplane because there'd be too many people wanting you to be
I
quiet.
mean, I mean, you could, but then people would be looking at you strange, and next thing you know, you're banned from the airline forever. So driving is
Oh,
safer if you're going to sing.
yeah. Oh, and then I know that you mentioned that AI especially helps the tiny but mighty businesses. Can you
Mhm.
elaborate on the unique advantage small teams gain from implementing AI and share a high impact, low complexity solution that provides immediate, tangible value without requiring
Mhm.
massive infrastructure?
Of course, I mean, Fox and Spindle being two of us is a great example of how AI makes it work.
Yeah.
Anything from small things like how do we put a cookie banner on our website, or how do you point a URL from one thing to another, all the way to designing actual products.
Yeah.
We are both business minded people in the company. We are not an engineering firm.
Yeah.
Yet, on our own website, we've built several tools that are full of hefty code. Now, I don't know how to code. I
No.
took one half of a Python class and I said, thank you, that's not for me, goodbye. But with tools like ChatGPT that
Yeah.
you've used yourself, or especially these days with Claude Code, you can achieve amazing things. An example of what I created early on for the firm is I built an AI readiness assessment tool, which a person can come from a company's perspective, answer a bunch of questions, and then be paired with the best services
Yeah.
that match from the firm's needs and from Fox and Spindle's offerings. And I created this, let's say, in March or April of 2025, so about a year ago at this
Yeah.
point. And I spent a solid 80 hours working on it. So it wasn't magic. AI didn't just magically
No.
build it for me, but we built it together over a span of 80 hours, and we I was very proud of what we achieved. But honestly, if I did it now with the tool like Claude Code, instead of 80 hours, I estimate it would take me 8. I would probably
Really?
be finished in a day. And that's just the leap that technology has made. Now, put yourself in the shoe of any kind of a small business, whether brand new or established. Now, one human being essentially acts like a full team.
Yeah.
You have subject matter experts literally at right in front of yourself and on your screen. Of course, you have to take into account what is the risk factor of what you're building. Our AI readiness assessment tool doesn't collect any private information. There's nothing really from a security perspective that you need to worry about. But if you're building something that's going to be a full-fledged product, of course, you'll want to involve real engineers, real testing, anything of that sort. But even with those, you're able to go from zero to an MVP in a matter of minutes, hours, or days, and don't even have to think about bringing in those experts until you're ready to show a real product.
Yeah.
And it spans any industry. You know, if you're a florist, think of the ways that you can just make your marketing different. If you are an attorney, think of how fast you can write opinions before they have to be reviewed by a human being.
Yeah.
There are so many options that AI makes possible that it's weird to say, but we're not options 3 or 4 years ago. We're not
No.
talking about, decades ago. This change is happening now, and it's happening in real life. And I've given many a webinar at this point or a speech where the change happened while I was speaking, and I would have to say, "Okay, so here's my favorite AI for images." Actually, never mind, guys. Use this one instead.
It's so true. It feels like there's something new coming out every day. And it's probably not that extreme, but you
No,
get
it is. It's
comfortable.
literally on a daily basis right
Yeah,
now.
you
It
get
is
comfortable, don't
hard to
you?
keep up.
You literally have to keep up. It is
Yeah.
it is
I try.
crazy.
I try to be very active on LinkedIn, follow all the right people, subscribe to all the newsletters, and finally, I try to be that voice myself. So I've forced myself to now write daily on LinkedIn because I realize that there's a need for it. So
Yeah.
I voice my opinion. Now, whether people care about it or not, we'll see. But I try to help people stay up to speed because that forces me to keep up, if nothing else. If I'm going to talk about this, I need to know what's going on.
Yeah, it is. I see so many good articles now, and I learn so much just from other people, like you say, LinkedIn posts. I find it very educational. But
Yeah.
I guess talking about educational, you highlighted that your biggest role is in the education piece. So
Yeah.
as AI is a new kind of technology that doesn't behave like traditional software, what is the single most important concept about generative AI that business leaders need to understand to use it effectively and safely?
Yeah. I think with generative AI, more so than with other software that we use,
Yeah,
anyone who uses it needs to understand how it works because it's in the name, it's generative, it's
yeah,
unpredictable, and people who are responsible for spreading that kind of knowledge throughout companies and making decisions about which tools to use often neglect to talk about that and invest both time and money into educating their workforce. So you end up with people who have access to powerful tools that don't know if or not they're being lied to by the tools that they're using.
yeah,
As a perfect example, ChatGPT, Claude, all of these amazing tools that I gladly use every single day, they are amazing brainstormers. Like
mm,
we've discussed, they can create fascinating code. Anything that requires creative work, they're fantastic at.
yeah,
But people forget that they are still terrible at anything that has a correct answer. So just last week, I had two of them review a presentation I had created, and both accurately said, "Hey, your word artificial in artificial intelligence is misspelled." They both caught that I was missing an I, and they both said, "You're missing the second I," except I was missing the third I. And as smart as generative AI is, it still can't count letters. And that goes all the way back to the way that these tools are built. They think in parts of words, they don't think in sentences, they don't know any facts, but these are things that regular users and companies don't think about
Yeah.
until they're told to think about these things. And that's where Fox and Spindle comes in. We tell people, look, before you start using this, let's have an honest, lengthy conversation about what this is, because it will save you time and effort very soon.
Yeah.
But you, as a user, should take the approach of, I need to understand what I'm getting involved in so that when you use it, you use it well. And our way of teaching is through fun. So if you're a new user, I say forget work. Stop trying to move mountains. Talk to the AI about your favorite books, your favorite recipes, your favorite TV shows. Write a script, write a story, record a podcast, do
Yeah.
something enjoyable so that you can see how it's reacting to you, how it's reacting to your prompts, how it's reacting to your questions, and then spend some time with an actual expert. We're all over the place. You know,
Yeah.
you can hire us, you can find us on YouTube, you can have free resources. But if you are a business owner of any size, I don't care, big or small, please spend time actually educating your workforce. It will have huge returns for you, because anything that can be hugely successful can also have huge negative impacts
Yeah.
if you use it incorrectly.
I definitely agree with that. And I know from using ChatGPT and nothing else, you can ask it a question in a certain way, and it's almost like you're driving what the response would be by the way you ask it. So if you ask that same question in a different way, you're likely to get a different response. So I do think you have to be careful of how you're wording things that you're putting into these tools,
Hmm.
because you can almost, not maybe not on purpose, but you can manipulate the answer a little bit
Oh,
by the way
absolutely.
that you're asking it. So yeah, I can
Yeah,
understand that.
AI is a perfect example of garbage in, garbage out. So the way you ask the question, the level of care you put into the detail of the question has almost perfect correlation to the output.
Yeah.
There's actual research right now, and I'm not going to quote numbers because my memory is not that great, but I can confirm that the level of care you put into your prompt will directly impact the output that you get.
Yeah.
But you could ask the exact same question, and we did a workshop on this exact topic last week,
Yeah.
where I had multiple people put in the exact same question into the exact same tool and get wildly different answers. And it's not the AI's fault. The AI is not doing anything wrong. It's just predicting an answer. It's generating an answer. Once
Yeah.
again, it's generative AI. And because it was an opinion piece, it had two different thoughts,
Yeah.
and that's okay. You use it as a sparring partner, but just please don't do math with it.
Yeah. And I know Fox and Spindle has a strong focus on ethical AI. How do
Hmm.
you practically define ethical AI in a business context? And how do you ensure that the AI solutions you implement don't unintentionally sideline human creativity or lead to job displacement?
Yeah, that's huge for us. And it was the first thing that we discussed as a firm is
Yeah.
that because AI has the opportunity to make processes better, faster, cheaper, that those efficiencies could come at a loss of jobs.
Yeah.
All the way back when the printing press was invented, scribes did lose their jobs.
Yeah.
When cars replaced horse and buggies, both
No.
people and horses lost their
Yeah.
jobs. So we are not going to pretend that that change isn't happening, but we want to ensure that partners that we work with are not replacing humans with artificial intelligence, but rather that they are enhancing
Yeah.
what those humans can achieve, and that they, as human beings, are better prepared for the future. That is a choice that a company, that business owners, managers have to make on the behalf of their workforce, and that is a requirement as part of our engagements.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes with ethics is how AI impacts both human beings, not even in a business setting, but just in our daily lives, and how it impacts the environment around us.
Yeah.
Because artificial intelligence is built by humans and on human knowledge and human data, that data is inherently biased.
Yeah.
And depending on where you're sourcing your data, it's going to be biased in certain directions. In the Western world, our AIs are positively biased towards white men. And
Yeah.
anything else than that will be biased against. There's research out of Belgium very recently where They worked with hundreds of recruiters who were using AI. And AIs, because they're so smart these days, you don't even have to say that you are, for example, a woman or a person of color on your resume. The AI is smart enough to guess that just based on the content and still have its bias negatively affect you because it's following patterns from literally hundreds of years at this point.
Yeah,
So, an ethical use of AI doesn't just mean how you're using it, but sometimes it's whether you should be using it at
I
all
know.
in certain cases. And I will argue, for example, if you're using AI in hiring practices, you're already misusing AI
Yeah,
because just because it can do something doesn't mean that it should.
no,
And then we could talk ad nauseum about the level of energy it takes to run AI. And I don't want to scare people and say, hey, this is uses up energy, so don't use it.
yeah,
But you know what? Let's say you have a small Toyota and a Lamborghini. You don't have to drive your Lamborghini to the grocery store. If you're going to do something simple, if you're going to add 3 plus 2, you can use a calculator or your human brain. You don't have to ask ChatGPT to do it for you.
yeah,
Save AI for those complex tasks where you're truly creating something that is not possible without it. And then when you are doing simple tasks, go back to the way that we were doing things 3, 4 years ago. You'll be fine.
yeah.
Everything will be fine. AI does not have to be involved in everything.
No, and I think that is a good point. I've seen some companies where they just want to throw AI at everything. It's about
Mhm.
introducing it at the right time, the right level, and making sure that you're not just throwing everything at it. But I know that you've just used that example with regards to resume. So you gave me a powerful example of why AI shouldn't be used as a decision maker, like in a resume review. For founders and CEOs, what is the clear line between using AI as a brainstorming partner and mistakenly relying on it as an unbiased decision engine? So I guess you've just
I,
touched on that.
well, it's a great question though, especially because this technology is now evolving from being chatbots to being agents.
Yeah,
Thanks to tools like Claude Code or OpenAI's Codex, AI is now making decisions for us. So Claude Code, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is a tool that can perform actions on your computer, meaning that you have to delegate some decisions to it. And once again, it is important to decide which decisions can be delegated or should be delegated rather versus can,
yeah,
versus those where you just ask it for opinions. You can use AI as a brainstorming partner in decision making, but ultimately for anything that's going to impact lives, anything that's going to impact money, anything that's going to impact the world around you, you should still have the finger on the button in the end and not just say, hey, computer, go forth and do. So
yeah,
you wanted to clean up your folders? Great. You wanted to write some code? Great. But don't just let an agent who can make decisions, who can make purchases, who can talk to people be completely unsupervised.
yeah,
Because think of it this way: when you hire someone, a human being, you vet them, you read their resume, you talk to them, you have to make a conscious decision that, okay, this person is now trustworthy enough to make decisions on the behalf of my company.
yeah,
And if that person screws up, it's the company's fault. The same applies to
think,
artificial intelligence or really any tool. You can't just say, "Oh, oops, my
yeah,
AI did this, so I'm not responsible." You, if you can claim all the benefits from using AI, you also have to suffer the consequences.
yeah.
And that shouldn't be scary because we should be approaching this intelligently from the start. And we just say, okay, this is a place for AI to play in, and this is where I'm going to remain human.
I get that, and I think especially when we talked about resume reviews and things like that, I think you do have to have that personal touch. I know whenever I've done recruitment, I will spend hours reading them myself because I think it's important, especially with something like that, because it's personal. It's someone who's going to be
Mhm.
working for you, with you. You want to make sure that you're picking the right person. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, your AI readiness assessment covers fundamentals, strategy, ethics, technical, and workforce. Which of these five areas typically presents the biggest challenge for companies, and why does governance often score the lowest?
That's because, well, first of all, governance is unfortunately not very sexy. So people just think that they can move past it and that their current rules are going to work fine. And once again, because this is new types of technology, we didn't have reasons to write about these things before now. And companies tend to either over or underreact. So I've
Yeah.
seen both happen where either the rules are so loose that every individual user does whatever the heck they want, or they're so strict that you can't even touch any AI tool without legal's permission.
Yes.
And both ways are wrong because
Yeah.
both ways are going to result in essentially what we call shadow AI, where people use AI, they just are ashamed of it and hide it. Um, the best solutions are when, once again, we educate the workforce on here are the tools that you're allowed to use. Here's the types of use cases that you can use them for. And then if you have ideas, please come talk to us. But AI is almost kind of easy because if you feel dirty doing it, then you are.
It's
It's
probably
as simple
wrong.
as that.
Yeah.
Exactly. If it feels wrong, it is. So stop. Um, and that's where governance usually fails because it's a fine balance. How do you tell people that an official piece of paper and that you CYA cover your own butt?
Yeah.
As a company, companies tend to be risk averse, so they either pretend it doesn't exist or they just go too far, and then they prevent creativity because artificial intelligence shouldn't just help us do our old work faster. It should help us create new ways of working and
Yeah.
find things that we've always dreamt of and haven't been able to do before. Again, I've always dreamt of making a video game, and now I have nothing that's ever going to make money, but I use it as a lead generation tool at a conference. Actually, use is too strong. Did anyone actually play my game? No, they didn't, but I built it, and
That's the
I'm proud
important
of it.
thing. I love that though, because I think you've got to try and use it for fun as well, haven't you? I know from doing the podcasts alone, AI is being used in the legal sector for medical research. Those are big governing companies, and they're using it. So I think you can use AI in governance, and you can do it well. But like,
Mhm.
I think people are afraid of stepping into it, aren't they? On time.
They are, but ironically, AI is also great at explaining itself. So, for those companies or people who are trying to build an AI governance policy, start with AI, have it explain itself to you, and have it write its policy for you. Finish it with a human being, obviously, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be complicated, and it shouldn't be 17 pages long because no one's going to read that.
No.
Have it be a one pager, have it be very clear, very specific, and simple to understand, and then you'll be in a safe space.
Yeah, and I think that's the good thing about AI is it does very good summaries. You can shorten things dramatically. I'd be afraid of shortening something so much, but then you read their summaries and I think, oh, that's amazing. Why didn't I think of
Yeah.
doing that?
It,
Um,
it takes skill to be efficient. Was it Mark Twain who said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I would have written a shorter letter if I had more time."
yeah, so true.
Yeah.
You referenced a study showing that treating AI like a team member allows an
Mhm.
individual or small team to perform as multiple subject matter experts. How does this concept of AI driven consolidation change the hiring and team structure strategy for a growing SaaS or tech company?
Oh, I love that. Because people are going to be able to do more on their own, I think the power of creativity and human judgment is going to become even more important than it is today,
Yeah,
along with human expertise. Because when artificial intelligence kind of levels the playing field in terms of what people can do, those with creativity and good judgment and expertise are going to stand out because they are going to be above average.
yeah,
When we have a bigger, wider average, then those who are exceptional are going to matter more. And we are going to need people who can think in various levels, low, high, different industries, people who can see opportunities are going
Yeah.
to benefit the most from artificial intelligence. It's not going to remove, I think, the types of roles, but one group of people is simply going to accomplish a lot more. So I
Yeah.
think we're going to see a rise in smaller companies and smaller teams. Not necessarily that we won't have big companies, but there'll be smaller silos that are more self-sufficient.
Yeah, yeah, because they can now work more efficiently and not have to hire a huge team. I know
Yeah.
I mentioned the concept of AIO as a golden nugget.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
is one emerging AI tool or concept that you are currently most excited about, and how do you see it changing the landscape for, say, business to business tech companies in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, I think it's really tools like Claude Code, which is a huge misnomer because it sounds like it's for engineers, but it's
Yeah,
truly just an easy to use AI agent for pretty much anyone. I was an AI agent skeptic up until very recently. It was
really.
Claude Code that converted me because it's not that I didn't believe that it couldn't do things, but this is the first one where I actually trust it with my machine and say, fine, you can use my computer on my behalf.
Yeah,
And once I saw how simple it is to use, I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the near future. And I think it's not just going to be B2B conversations. I think very soon we're going to start seeing B2A and then A2A, where
yeah,
two agents have a full-on conversations between them and make decisions on behalf of both companies. So humans will be involved more in the setting up of goals and the parameters, and
yeah,
then a lot of the work will then be executed fully by these agents. And that's already happening today. I mean, it's happening in the entertainment industry, it's
yeah.
happening in the retail industry. So I think, 12 to 18 months is a stretch. I think we're going to see that within the next
Six.
6 months, where we see a lot more A to A. At some point, we're just going to get the whole alphabet.
I know. Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast, Luca. I would like to say thank you so much for joining me. You've given us some
Thank you for
amazing
having me.
insights. No, it's been wonderful. I've loved our conversation, so thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you all.
Thank you.